Thank you for joining us. My name is Benedict Roemer. I'm a junior in the Jepson School of Leadership Studies, and today we're here talking with Mr. Dennis Whittle. So I'll get right into it. I'm going to start with a kind of personal question, but looking back on your life, what are some examples that you've seen of listening as leadership, the subject of your talk tonight?
Well, you know, I'm going to give many stories about that tonight.
Sure, I'd imagine.
One of the most important of those stories that I'll tell is listening to a professor who's here now, and when I had him in 1979, Peter Kaufman.
Wow.
And Peter, I went into his class as a green freshman who cared about nothing and was very cynical. And he told me, listen up, kid. If you wipe that smirk off your face and paid attention, you might learn something.
My next question is, what are some ways that college students can work day by day to listen more and thereby enhance their own leadership potentials?
Well, one of the best things about college is getting to try on a lot of different ideas.
Sure.
And we all have strong passions about things when we develop insights. But the best thing you can do is to counterbalance that by going out and seeking people who have very different perspectives on the world. Spending time with them and actually trying to understand the world from their perspective. Doesn't mean you'll always agree with it, but at least you'll understand it.
So can you think of ways that it might be helpful to listen to yourself, listen to your own intuitions, your own ideas, and how that can help you move forward and be successful in leadership as well?
Well, I think there's two parts to that. One is just slowing down and getting rid of the distractions. And you can do that in a few different ways. Some people meditate.
Sure.
Some people go running, play sports, do art or music, where they really lose themselves in themselves, I'll say. And oftentimes you do that, and it's not in a directed way. You're not trying to plumb the depths of your own soul to find out who you are or what you want.
Sure.
But it's a really important activity to engage in. It's just losing yourself in art, music, books, sports, meditation. And I've found in my life, when I look back on the big decisions I've made and hopefully some accomplishments, each time I heard a voice down deep inside my own self, in my stomach. I can still feel it now.
Sure.
And this voice said, you have to do this.
Okay.
And it's a visceral feeling that you have, but you can only have it after a lot of listening, both to other people and then to yourself.
And so Feedback Labs does great work closing the feedback kind of the gap between aid organizations and their constituents, the people they seek to serve. Are there other places where you see this feedback gap, where there's kind of a disconnect between the work that's trying to get done and the people that are trying to be served?
Well, I've spent most of my life in international aid, so that's was the initial focus of Feedback Labs. But I was surprised that within a few months of starting it, I got a call from the White House asking me to come put on a conference with them.
Sure.
And I said, why do you need me? And they said, well, the U.S. government is not so good at listening to its own citizens.
Sure.
And so I put on a conference with them along with some foundations, major foundations in the U.S. And the foundation said the same thing. They said, you know, we're good at telling people what they need to make their lives better, but we're not very good at listening to them about what they think they need to make their lives better. So government, foundations, and then just last week I was on the phone with a venture capitalist, and I couldn't believe this. And he said, I said, well, you guys obviously listen to the market all the time. That's how you make money. And he said, you'd be surprised at how bad we are at working with our portfolio companies.
Wow, that's thought. I think they'd kind of be the experts at listening and being in tune with what's going on around them.
No, I was shocked by that. Yeah. And many of them are, to be fair. There's a big customer movement that's really started in the 70s.
When did you start to understand that listening was really the key to being successful and being a leader in whatever you're doing?
Well, you know, I think I started becoming successful when I started listening.
Sure.
But I didn't realize what I was doing. Okay. And I'll tell you the story of when I realized it.
Sure, yeah.
It was, I don't know how many months ago, last year, when I came down for my first meeting of the advisory board of the Jepson School of Leadership Studies. And I was sitting there, and I didn't know anything about the school. I came down because Professor Kaufman told me to come down. So I came down. And I was sitting there in the meeting, and I was listening to what was going on, and I talked to some students, talked to a few faculty, and I thought, wow, there is a discipline called leadership. And you know what? It's connected to what I'm doing.
So that's all we have. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is, again, Mr. Dennis Whittle with us.